Alright, I was gonna do a different topic for this week, but I was reminded of something today. My dad shared a Facebook post that I made a long time ago, I think 4 years ago, when we were going street preaching and praying over people and quote unquote doing miracles. So I think I'm really primed to talk about that right now because I took miracles as such a like defining thing, right? And I'll put the post up, the video. I'll put that up so you guys can see what specifically what I'm talking about. Now, I didn't think that this specific miracle was a linchpin or anything, but there are other ones that I don't exactly know how to explain, at least not right now. And there are other ones that, like, I can definitely explain now, and then I even could explain then. Like, for instance, what we called being slain in the spirit, or the baptism of fire, which is insanely dramatized. Basically, they would pray over you and you just fall over. Nothing too dramatic about that. I knew back then, oh, this is probably just placebo, but it strengthened my faith in God to believe that it wasn't placebo and it was spiritual and that it was God, so I just believed that it was God. And that kind of goes with a lot of the miracles. The growing of legs, that one, like, there were people who could fake it, obviously. They would, actually not stretch out their legs all the way and all that. And there are definitely ways that you could very easily fake it. But I couldn't figure out this one, because I was there in the moment. I've had this happen to me, where you will have your legs straight. You will be sitting back against the back of the chair, with your legs straight out in front of you, knees locked, and one will get longer as someone prays over you. And it's such a confusing experience if you don't believe in God, because you're seeing your leg get longer, and supposedly, from everything that your brain is telling you, you're hearing people praying, you're seeing somebody have their hand over you and all that, and it seems so obvious to your mind that it's God, and that it's some supernatural thing that's happening. But then when you think about it for a minute, well, years, I guess. It took me a few years to realize this. What you're actually doing, at least what I think is happening, and keep in mind that everyone here, including the person whose leg, quote-unquote, is being grown out, everyone here believed that this was an act of God, that God caused the leg to come out, and was correcting spinal posture or whatever. Because if you don't know, your legs can be different lengths if your spine is not straight or if your pelvis is seated wrong, whatever. So what the growing of the leg does would be straightening your back if it were truly God doing it, right? But what I think it is now is just you subtly rotating your pelvis. And that's honestly the only way I can think of describing it, or maybe, I don't know. Somebody actually commented on the post about it being flexing your quads, which doesn't make sense. But he had the right idea, but not quite the exactly correct explanation. And of course, when he commented that, it was just after I posted it, and we all called him a worker of Satan. He's not. His comments weren't super informed, like he was saying that evils in the human mind, and I guess that's a philosophy thing, not necessarily a science thing, so I can't fault him on having a different a different philosophical view than me. Anyway, point is, that one's really easy to explain. There are other easy ways to fake it, like pulling the shoe out, which wasn't being done there. I know that for a fact, because I've done that exact thing, and the shoe was not pulled out, the knees were locked. It had to have been something like the rotating of the pelvis. But there are also other miracles that I can't explain. For instance, one of my friends, she was a school friend, kind of a school friend, like school acquaintance, I guess is a better term for it. She got invited to church. I don't remember who invited her, actually. Anyway, she came to our church, and we were sitting there after the service. The worship music was going. People were rocking out. She had broken her ankle, so I prayed over her ankle because I fully believed that God would heal her ankle. I think she broke her ankle. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, prayed over it, and she stood up, felt no pain, and that was crazy. And what I think, I'm gonna offer an explanation. Like, she was dancing around. She gave me a hug. She was real excited about it. So what I think happened was placebo was going on because it wasn't like a bad break or anything. It might have been a sprain. I don't know. Anyway, point is, she didn't feel any pain. She was jumping around, having a good time. The next day, she actually showed up to school back in the cast with the crutch, with the crutches and everything. So I don't think she was actually healed. I think it was all placebo and whatever. She had me pray over it again at school, and she said the pain went away again. But I think it was the same thing there. And everyone was saying that she was faking it because maybe she was faking it. I don't know. Okay, never mind. I guess there's not any that I can specifically think of. Actually, my brother, this is another one that I can't necessarily explain. My brother had his foot run over by a car. He got in, he was trying to get in the car. My mom didn't realize that he wasn't fully in the car. Because they take forever to buckle up and all that. So she started driving, and she rolled over my brother's foot with the wheel because she didn't realize that he was fully in the car. That he wasn't fully in the car, sorry. And she felt horrible about it. She took him home because she wanted to get ready to take him to the emergency room in case his foot was broken. My dad prayed. My dad was like, "No, we don't need to take him to the doctor. We can just pray over him," which is horrible. That's a disgusting way to think. If you are injured, don't rely on supernatural forces to heal you. Go to the doctor. Anyway, my dad didn't want my mom to take him to the doctor. He prayed over it. She took him to the doctor anyway. Got an x-ray, and the doctor said that his foot wasn't broken, but it looked like there used to be a break there, and it had been healed, which is confusing because his foot was never actually broken before that. So maybe the bone was just fractured in a certain way that made it look like it used to be broken, and it was like a very small chance of that actually happening. Who knows? That one, I don't know exactly how to explain that. And I don't think that it's a linchpin in saying that there are supernatural forces, because, what I said might be true. I don't know how bones work, though. So take everything I say about pretty much everything with a huge grain of salt. I'm not claiming to be an authority or, particularly smart. Even if I was an authority, appeal to authority is never a good argument. Don't say, "Oh, well, this smart guy said it." Not saying that I'm a smart guy. I'm saying if I was a smart guy. Anyway, point is, I don't think God's real because, my brother's foot looks like it used to have a break even though it wasn't broken. Except it might have been broken and it was healed by God or something. It's just, at the time, I thought it was a linchpin, That's part of the reason it took me so long to break out of my faith. I was Christian since, I think, 4th grade. I think I actually went over that in my losing faith video. What are some other miracles? Actually, back on the topic of growing the legs out, I went to the fair with, my dad was there, a couple Christian friends were there, and we had like a church booth, or my church had a Christian booth set up to like bring the good news to people or whatever. And I think the tagline on the booth was, "Are you going to heaven?" And they would have people come up and take a little quiz, and they were all, like minor sins. I should do a video about sins. That's what I was going to do this week's video about, but miracles just seemed topical in my life. Anyway, point is, it would have a little questionnaire of really minor things, like, have you ever stolen? Have you ever lied? Have you ever, whatever. All the little things that literally everybody has done because they're not actually that bad. And one of them might have been, have you ever looked at somebody and thought they were attractive? Not worded like that, but have you ever lusted, I guess, which for some reason is a sin. Anyway, that's a different topic, different time. Anyway, 99.99% of people who came up to that booth would say yes to at least one of them. And be like, oh, well, you don't have to because Jesus. Anyway, point is, there was a group of teenagers. A friend and I were walking around the fair. A Christian friend and I specifically, because we were bored of sitting at the booth. And there was this group of teenagers. I think they were all Hispanic. That's not necessarily relevant. That's just a random minor detail I remembered. And we were like, hey, you guys want to see a miracle? You guys want to see something cool or whatever? I don't remember exactly what we said. But we were saying, like, hey, you want to see a cool thing? And like, yeah, sure. Why not? We were pretty close to the booth, and I think we made it pretty clear that we were trying to show them that God existed. Anyway, we sat them down on these bleachers that were nearby. We're like, hey, look at this. Give me your legs. So one of them hesitantly lifts their legs up, puts them in my hands, and I press against them, right? Not so much that they go back, but it's obvious that their legs are locked. And all the other ones are watching. They're a group of probably 5 kids. Plus my friend is watching because he thinks it's really cool. Because he thinks it's, God. Which I did too. I thought it was amazing. And I'm like, in Jesus' name, leg grow out. And the leg started moving. And again, I'm pretty sure that it's just the pelvic bone muscle. I'm pretty sure it's the pelvis moving a little bit to a point where you can't notice it. Similar to like how you'll unintentionally sway when you're listening to music. I do that sometimes, and I'll catch myself. Like I'll be sitting in public, sitting on a bench, and I'm just swaying because I'm listening to music, and then I realize that I'm swaying, so I'll stop. I think it's the same concept. And all these kids started freaking out, like, what the heck's going on? How'd you make their leg longer? One of them made a joke, can you make it work on other things? Which, if you didn't catch that, it's a penis joke. They're asking if they could make their penis bigger. Anyway, they started doing it to each other, not making their penises bigger, making their legs grow out. They would grab each other's legs, or grab each other's feet and press in, make sure their legs were locked, and tell their legs to grow out in Jesus' name. And the leg would appear to get longer. And I thought at the time that was just an incredible, amazing thing, because I brought all these, or I at least showed all these kids God, and I thought, wow, I might have just saved a few lives from hell. Now, I realize that, first of all, they probably didn't become Christian because of that. They thought, well, that's a cool thing that can happen. And then moved on with their lives. But also, if they had become Christian, I, at this exact second, would feel awful. Like, I would feel so bad. Just because I led... And I'm sure there are people who became Christian because of me, which sucks, because there are so many problems with Christianity. I hesitate to call myself anti-theist, but I think at this point I kind of have to be. But you know, when there are people who aren't necessarily presupposing that there's something supernatural going on, but they are supposing that something will happen, their brain will make it happen. And that goes with most miracles. Most miracles are placebo. That's the main point that I want to get to. Most placebos are miracles. Yeah, there you go, Aiden. Most miracles are placebos or are other mental effects. They're not God showing himself to us. And I don't think that Christians can use miracles as some sort of catch-all to prove that God exists. And there are stories of, curing cancer by praying, because whatever. And I honestly don't know if I just shouldn't believe them, or if placebo has power over even cancer. But I'm 100% positive that every single miracle, quote unquote, can be explained without supernatural woo-woo, you know what I mean? And I wasn't convinced of that until fairly recently. But then I was, and I started thinking, well, how can this be rationalized? As you heard my thought process today. That's all I have for this one. Miracles are whack. Don't believe that they're actually God showing himself, because they're probably not. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Love you all. I don't know how to end this.